Today I am an Inquisitor. My faith in the Constitution is whole, it is complete, it is total.
Welcome to the Made in Texas interview series. Today, I'm excited to interview Angela Tucker, the director of the feature-length documentary, The Inquisitor, about the life and legacy of Barbara Jordan. Thank you, Angela, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's very exciting to be in this Made in Texas space.
We're so happy, and we should let people know you and I know each other. We went to film school together.
Yes.
And it is so exciting to see the sort of people I knew when doing such incredible work. And I just want to say congratulations because it's a great film.
Oh, thank you. So whenever I see my classmates out there doing things, I'm like, oh, yay.
Yeah.
Yay for
exactly.
us. Mm-hmm.
But we're here to talk about your project, The Inquisitor. Barbara Jordan is like no one else. And I want to ask, what first drew you to telling her story?
Now, I'm going to admit I didn't really know who Barbara Jordan was. She's one of those people I recognized, but I didn't know who she was. So I heard her speech and I was like, oh my God, this person's incredible. I'm going to watch the documentary about her right now that exists, and then realize that the documentary did not exist. And then all of these kind of crazy confluences happened where it was a friend of mine who ended up producing the film. She met an EP who was interested in kind of working with someone on a Barbara Jordan film, and she came onto the project. It was all of these different signs that the project should happen. And, it took about 5 years to make. But yeah, it's just the minute I saw that Watergate speech, I really knew that this was a movie that needed to happen.
Yeah, incredible. She lived such a large life. How did you decide who to include?
There's a lot of people who are huge fans of hers, but we really made a decision to, first of all, either focus on, Texans or Texan politicians, and then people who knew her personally. So that really lessened the number because, people who knew Barbara are many of them are quite old now. Mm-hmm. So people who were her contemporaries. But I wanted it to be also a portrait of, politicians they can kind of speak about what it's like to be a politician in a different way. And then, I knew that she and Dan Rather were friends. He was actually the first interview that I think kind of opened up our ability to get a lot of other people. From there, another really big interview was we did interview Cecile Richards before she passed. And she made a lot of introductions. She got us Rodney Ellis. And then it starts to, one
it
person
snowballs.
hears it. Yeah. And they hear that you're not a weirdie. And so then when you reach out to interview, they'll go, oh yeah, I heard you talk to so-and-so. And then it all just kind of starts happening.
Everyone's like, she's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
You should talk to her. As you're making this film, is there anything that surprised you to learn as you were learning about her and telling her story?
I mean, I really wanted to make a film that showed Barbara and, all of her accomplishment, obviously. But, I was also aware of wanting to make a kind of a full portrait of a Black woman who was a very complex woman, but who in her 59 years lived an incredible life. And she was a lot of fun, and I wanted to kind of show that she, liked to throw parties and did their version of karaoke part. She would be that person. So all of that was something that was just great to hear how much fun she was and how funny she was, because she had such a serious demeanor, and anybody who knew her would really talk about that. And that was something that it was really important to get across in the film. I knew that she had a partner for a very long time. And I knew, I don't know when I first learned that, but I learned it pretty early on. And so that is definitely probably something that is new information for a lot of people. But she was with Nancy Earl for I mean, I think almost like 30 years, you know? So, so it was something that also that we wanted to, you know, to reflect that part of her, just kind of the joy that she was loved very deeply by someone in her life. I wanted that. I wanted the world to know that about her too.
Yeah, and I like the way the telling of that. You definitely reflected how the depth of their relationship, which was lovely, and but also just like you honored sort of the way she spoke about it too. You know,
Yeah.
So that was pretty great. You filmed many of your interviews on location at UT, Texas Southern University. Can you talk about working with these Texas locations and institutions?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we couldn't have made this film without these institutions. You know, I mean, so many shout outs. First, you know, UT Austin. She was a professor there for many years, and you know, we were able to kind of reach out to, you know, some of her former students, get together, and then, you know, we have this incredible archivist, Suzanne Mason, who is based in Austin, and you know, we really couldn't have made this film without really a Texas-based archival producer, and then, you know, getting to Texas Southern, we brought on this amazing executive producer, Tyrone Dixon, who is a professor at Texas Southern. You know, in the Houston spaces, you know, her family, she grew up in the Third Ward, and once Tyrone came on, we met a lot of people. You know, her archives are at Texas Southern, so we were able to use her archives and reach out to, you know, the debate team. And, you know, she had her life in Austin, and she also had her Houston, where her family was, and sort of her, you know, her history there. So it took a long time, but all of those people had to come together for the film to be the film that we wanted it to be.
You mentioned how in each sort of place of her life, you had a team that was helping you. And one of the places that you used was our friends at the Texas Archive of the Moving Image.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Tammy has an incredible online resource. So, you know, the great thing about it was all of us could be looking for things all the time, you know, the movie could not have been made without that resource. It was an incredible resource of, you know, not just when you're making a movie about a politician, yes, there are the things that are them being on the news, being filmed on the news, or them giving a speech. But then there's all of these like weird little things that came out during that time, you know, like she, you know, there was some like short documentary about like, you know, Black Texans that she narrated. And there's this great footage of her walking in the cemetery from when she was younger. Yeah, so we got that from Tammy. That is, you know, that eventually the cemetery that she's buried in, and it's just, you know, or just kind of all of these debates. Like, she was definitely the person that they would bring on to do a debate with somebody that would, you know, but just I mean, in order to make a film about someone who isn't alive, you need a lot of footage of them doing their thing and hearing their voice. And Tammy was just, I mean, so wonderful. And so just having access to all of that footage and having all of us have access to be able to look at it and just kind of constantly do research was just, it was invaluable.
Well, I think she'd be proud of this film because you really did such a wonderful job of sort of showing her as a full human, you know, and all the good work that she did. So I don't want to speak for anyone, but, you know,
thank you. Yes, thank you. Her family was, her sister was able to see it in Houston. We did a screening and it was really great that she was sort of able to see it and have her community, you know, her kind of Houston community see it. So that's kind of all I needed to just feel good about it.
Good. So this film premiered at Tribeca Film Festival. Yes. It also showed at Austin Film Festival. Where else can we watch this film? How can people see this beautiful piece of work that you did?
Well, It will be showing on PBS on Independent Lens on February 23rd, and it'll be available. Also, I think it's kind of like a day and date, so you can find it on PBS, you can find it on YouTube, Amazon, iTunes. It'll be all of the places on February 23rd.
It's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. It's always wonderful to see you, my friend.
Oh, yeah. So
I
good to
couldn't be
see.
prouder of all the amazing things that you're doing.
Oh, thank you. And you too. I mean, it's very exciting.